Welcome in to a Wednesday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, live here from the UDL. Lizzie is here. We are expecting Mikey Mahtook to come in at some point, as the former LSU All-American has been here the last couple of days. It's been fantastic to chop it up with him. He'll be in for about the last hour and a half of today's show. We're going to talk to Nick Underhill about the New Orleans Saints in the second hour today. Media day for the SEC coaches. What's it going to be for LSU? Should be a storyline popping around 10:30 this morning.
This is better than the game.
As soon as Ogeron gets off his teleconference call, he usually leads them off at 10 a.m. Central Time. And he meets with the press following practice today. You'll have his radio show tonight. Fireworks have been flying during the weekly radio show. What to expect could be the most excitement of game week here for the Tigers.
That's what I'm saying. This is more exciting than Saturday sometimes.
It's Saturday night at TJ Ribs. Never rains on a Wednesday night. I screwed up that joke. I meant Wednesday night.
Sold out?
I
people
doubt it.
More
I
people
doubt
at
it.
TJ Ribs
Maybe.
or at Tiger Stadium?
Maybe. It could be a debate. Put it on the poll.
We have to go over these polls. We're getting some votes.
Good.
Yeah.
I love it. We appreciate that interaction very much. If you are inside of the YouTube app, chat app with us. If you're on Facebook, JordyCulottaShow.com. Before we get started here on this Wednesday morning, make sure to hit that like and share button for us, please. Like, share, comment. Any interaction serves us right. So if you can help us out with that, we really appreciate it as we get off the ground here this morning, as it should be a interesting day of breakdown here. Major League Baseball, we will talk about. LSU football, obviously. Steve Sarkisian is headed into Louisiana this weekend. He's going to watch Arch Manning play officially on Friday night. LSU Florida on Saturday. Billy Napier and the Cajuns won last night. Got the Tiger faithful really pulling for Coach Napier right now, as the Cajuns got the win. Who they play last night? App State?
App State, the home dogs.
Yeah.
Catching four at home, and they pulled it out.
Nice. Good win for Napier and the crew, as the Cajuns get the win last night in a Tuesday night college football game. That's got to be tough to get ready for, man.
What do you do the rest of the week?
I don't know. I mean, it has to throw your entire, just almost entire season out of whack.
Yeah, the feng shui's off.
So, lots to get here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Remember, always, before we get going here, I want to give a shout-out to everybody who is helping us get this thing off the ground. 41-13 winners last night for the Cajuns. Big night for Levi Lewis as he threw for over 200 yards.
They're both 4-1 going into that thing.
That was the showdown last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a big game. And he swallowed him up. Jesus.
Must be trying to show off or something.
Well, he said something. He went to after a game, whenever he ran up the score, he said something. He did a quote. He did get your popcorn ready, but something else.
Really?
He did a
Billy Napier.
Oh, let me look it up. I forgot what he said. It was
That's
nice.
true.
It was nice.
Wow.
It was after the game too.
Wow.
So he's putting himself out there.
All right, we're going to talk to Nick Underhill, as we said, in the second hour today. New Orleans Saints on the road playing Monday Night Football this week. They'll be playing Seattle.
Scared money don't
Monday
make
night.
money. That's what he said.
Scared money don't make money. Okay. A lot of
Okay.
money out there right now.
It's
Napier.
out there, Nate.
We'll get some thoughts on Napier today. How's everybody feel about Billy Napier? Napier's an interesting name to me in this when you talk about this LSU coaching search. Before we get there, Majestic Coffee, locally brewed down here in South Louisiana. You want your own? Get online at delicioussips.com. Great Southern Louisiana brewed coffee. True Blue Water, if you want to get on the delivery route, you can also do that very easily by logging online to trubluewater.com, trubluewater.com, to get in touch with them online. All of our phone calls this morning, all of our guests via the phone line are compliments of Metropolitan Health Group, Real Doctors, Real Solutions. Get in touch. Charlie Harvey, Jason Ramazan, the entire crew over there at Metropolitan Health Group. And, of course, our official spice of the Jordy Culotta Show is Papa Earl's. 30% less sodium than the competition over at Papa Earl's. If you want to pick up yours locally here today, you can do that at Rouse's, High Neighbor, Calandro's, all the spots here around the capital city. Shout out to Papa Earl's. Appreciate his support every day here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Like and share before we get going here. Billy Napier is an interesting name, right? I mean, Napier, for the most part, has been a name that has been very intriguing to college football fans over the last week, as we got a couple of people inside of the bunker giving us a confirmation. Nick Frugier, scared money don't make money. Matt Wells, it was at halftime. He went for it with a few seconds left before half rather than kicking the field goal. Travis McGraw, money line the over 53 and 2 live bets. The final score of 54 this morning. It's a hell
Wake
of a
up feeling
midweek.
great. That boy, you're set for the weekend.
That is.
Got a little cushion to play with.
Are we opened up on our ability to take donations here on YouTube? Did we open that
the
up?
super chat.
The super chat.
We have not opened the super chat. Remember, we closed it
Yeah,
because
I do remember
we're trying to
that.
skirt the man a
Then
little
didn't
bit.
our consultant say open it back up?
Yeah,
Why not?
but I got to open it up on this computer.
All right, I'm trying to take Travis McGraw's money as the purpose of why I'm
Let me
asking.
do this. He wants to give it now. I'll do it now.
But I wonder about Billy Napier in a sense of there's got to be a contingency of the LSU faithful that are, or at least I have heard from. We're not hiring. LSU's not hiring Louisiana's coach, University of Louisiana Lafayette's coach, Southwestern's coach.
Little brother.
They're not going to hire the Cajuns coach. Cajuns coach is qualified. Really? I mean, if you look at the last couple of seasons, Napier has had a couple of interviews around the SEC, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Auburn. Last season, I think the story goes that Auburn was that they were going to force on him his staff. That, in fact, they did offer him the job, but told him who he could and could not hire. And I agree with Napier. You wait all your life for an opportunity like that, you're not going to take it and have somebody tell you how to do it. I mean, if you're going to take this thing and you're qualified to run an SEC program, well, then you're going to do it your way, man. I mean, that's what the opportunity is about. So it makes a lot of sense on him passing on that Auburn gig last season. But when you look at some of the opportunities that he's had, Mississippi State, South Carolina, to name a couple, it is as if he has been waiting on something. It is as if he was waiting on an opportunity, much like Kirby Smart did when his days as a defensive coordinator at Alabama were really fueled by what job is he going to get? What job is Kirby Smart going to go after? Because, you know, he was kind of like what we talked about yesterday. They're during this coaching hiring cycle, whether you're Southern California, LSU, it seems like the University of Miami's job might open up at some point. You're going to have to go pluck somebody. You're going to have to go take somebody off of the sideline that is already established. And right now there just doesn't feel like there's that top assistant, there's that qualified head coach that is on somebody's staff or somebody that has head coaching experience that is now serving on somebody's staff as an assistant coach. You're going to have to go get somebody, a head coach, somebody who's running their program, a Billy Napier, a Lane Kiffin, a Mario Cristobal, Mel Tucker. There's names out there that have been swirling around this job. Luke Fickell, PJ Fleck, all those guys have one thing in common. They're all head coaches. There's nobody that you can really negotiate with that you're not going to have to, take away from a program. And Napier's name has always kind of been aligned with Scott Woodward. There's always been some sense of relativity, just almost familiarity there. We spoke about Saban and Woodward's friendship. There's a lot of due diligence that went in when he was hiring Jimbo Fisher. And I think, one of the outlying names during that time of a name to watch was Napier. He didn't have any head coaching experience at the time, or he had limited head coaching experience at the time, which really didn't make him a true candidate, but was a name to watch. If I recall during that time of Texas A&M going through the process with Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher and Scott Woodward, some of the names that were popping up, one of them on very much of a outlying substance was Napier, and I think that goes in to showing that the consultation between Woodward and Saban and Jimmy Sexton and all of that those people within that world truly exist. Billy Napier as the LSU head coach, does it make sense? Does it make sense to you out there? because that is a name that it seems like has always kind of been floated around here, around this possible of an opening. This job, if it was to open, was somebody that was going to get at least a look at. And now he seems like he is qualified. I know that he is USL's coach. I know that he is spent the last couple of seasons, going and coaching for Lafayette, for Louisiana Lafayette. But it does feel like now is the time where he would make the jump. Levi Lewis is quarterback, is a senior. A lot of the guys that he has recruited and brought into that program have been there now. He's really established himself down there. So I wonder if this job and when it opens up, how serious of a consideration Billy Napier will get.
Super Chat's working. $5.
Nice,
there we go. $4.99.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. Wait, I do have a question though. Why do you think this is Billy Napier's gotten to this point with ULL? Like, why do you think it's obviously been offered to, as we think, 2 SEC head jobs, goes back to UL? There's got to be something that is there a job that he prefers, or there's rumors floating around he doesn't want to be in the SEC, he wants to be in a different conference where it's a little bit like UL, where you can kind of...
No, he wants to be in the SEC.
I would imagine, yeah, because that didn't make any sense to me, because he's been in there before. He's seen the machine.
He's waiting on something. Kirby Smart was waiting on something when he was at Alabama. He had opportunities to jump at multiple jobs. He respectively declined and waited for the one that he wanted. Maybe Napier knows something that we don't. I have speculated on the microphone, off the microphone, that the reason of him turning down those jobs is maybe somebody has told him, hey, look, just be patient. If you really don't want that gig, if you just want to get a D1 SEC Power 5 job, you don't have to jump at South Carolina. Just pump the brakes a little bit. You got a good thing going on at Lafayette, and that LSU job may open up sooner rather than later. And I think that's a job that everybody in football, you heard Josh Pate yesterday, really paint the scene of what the thought is around the LSU football coaching job to the football world. And right now, it is the top gig that possibly could be available, that will be available.
An award with USC and Miami available. LSU sits atop the horse. Like,
right.
That's the biggest job out there, which is refreshing to hear. But if you're Napier, don't you think him being in Louisiana, he's probably heard some rumblings of what's happening in Baton Rouge with not only probably from any sources he has within LSU, if he has them, but just being this close to the product and hearing LSU fans be like, I don't know what's going on down there. Like, I'm sure he's heard something.
Oh, he definitely hears
being
it.
An hour away.
Well, sure, he's in Louisiana, and as much as people in Lafayette, there's a contingency that just really has the little brother syndrome of LSU. There is also a very loud majority or a loud minority that really loves LSU down there. So I guarantee you he has heard a lot of the feedback, a lot of the
rumblings.
Yeah, criticism, everything that's gone on. I mean, he's had a front row seat at the LSU football program for the last 5 seasons. I mean, he knows how it operates. He knows how it functions. He also knows how it's dysfunctional.
Right.
He also looks at it and says, my God, I mean, we're sitting over here in Lafayette running a miniature Alabama program, and meanwhile down the road with more resources, more money, and more things at their fingertips than we could ever pray for. They got it, running into the ground. They're putting that thing into a graveyard.
And as a quarterback, he was a former college quarterback, I think. I'm sure he's looking at the offense, he's going, get the play in. Like, if he's watching any LSU football, he's like, good Lord, it's gotten to this point where they can't even get a play in. Like, as a former quarterback, that's the first thing we got to work on. That's install.
Charles Bowden says he turned down Auburn, but once in the SEC, ? Yeah, he did. He turned down the Auburn job after the administration at Auburn told him who he was going to hire, right? I mean, like, think about it. You wait your entire life to be a Division I SEC head coach. You get your opportunity. They tell you, yeah, you got the job, but you can't hire your crew. We're going to tell you who you can hire. Hell no. Because if you get that opportunity, you fail and you do it with other people's coaches, the next administration doesn't care about that. Your time has come and gone. Your opportunity has gone out the window. So Napier's waiting on the right job. He's waiting on the right opportunity, and with what he has going on down at Lafayette, he's put himself in a position where he can do that. He's got the luxury of just telling people, nah, I'm good. I'm okay where I'm at. I'm making enough money. We got good players, and they have a program that really has a reputation around the country of doing it right, winning, producing, doing everything that they can to develop the student athlete. So I think that he's got the luxury of kind of picking and choosing where he wants to go, or at least when he wants to move. And he is an intriguing name, I think, in this process that we have to continue to watch, just because of kind of where he's at, his experience, the last couple of seasons of him getting a couple of interviews in the SEC. I think, once this job opens up, if the process has, really not already begun behind the scenes, I think that he's one of the names that's probably going to pop up as somebody that they'll at least sit down and talk to, that you at least have a conversation with. And you get an understanding of kind of where he is in his football life, and what his aspirations in the job are, and if it is to be a leader of a big time program like LSU, then I wonder where he fits into the mold. I wonder where he fits into the pecking order.
Well, you go back to what happened at Auburn already this year with Brian Harsin there. He's already had to fire a wide receivers coach four games in. So you can tell that, and then he brings in his guy from Boise State to replace him. So you can tell Auburn has their thumb over what guys that the coaching staff brought in together. Like, he wasn't allowed to bring in his guy as the wide receivers coach. He brings in Cornelius Williams out of Troy. 4 games in, has to can him. But look who rises up and takes that spot. It's his friend he brought from Boise State. So that's what you have to deal with Auburn. You have to deal with, like, the inner workings and almost go behind their back to get the people you want in coaching positions. So if you're Billy Napier and you saw the way that was going to go down, I wouldn't say yes either, because you're tied to a sinking ship. Like, you want to make your own decisions.
Napier knows the fraternity of college football coaches very well. He's got great experience, got a great resume. He was the interim, or not the interim, he was the associate head coach on that Arizona State team a couple of years back before they brought in Herm Edwards. He was on Nick Saban's coaching staff as a recruiting coordinator and really rated the state of Louisiana during his time, recruited at a very, very high level. And he also comes with a reputation on the offensive side of the ball as a forward thinker, as somebody who runs a very similar offense to what Lane Kiffin runs over there in Oxford. So it's another name. It's somebody else to look out for. I think it's somebody who's going to get some attention when we talk about this job. I think that Napier is going to, and look, it's because of how his teams perform, first and foremost. 41-13 winners last night, Sun Belt Championship. They've been in the Sun Belt Championship game his first 3 seasons on the job. I mean, he has totally overhauled, changed the culture, and made UL a winner in his short time in Lafayette. So that alone, I think, is going to bring him some attention. Is the job too big for him in his first gig? To be debated. And this is what we talked about yesterday. This goes about what we talked about yesterday. There's nobody in this mix. There's nobody out there that has the proven track record that gives you the peace of mind, in my opinion, that says that's the guy, right? Like, outside of going and getting somebody like Lane Kiffin, who we made the case for yesterday, just kind of being the least risk, who provides the least amount of risk in this process, to me, is Kiffin of the guys that we're talking about. And look, they're most probably could be some guy, some name off the board that nobody's talking about. Jay Johnson, to a degree. I mean, I know Johnson's name was kind of floated, but nobody really was pushing Johnson's name or thought of him as a real viable candidate throughout that process. Early return on Johnson was, home run. No pun intended. But
what's happening to you?
There could be, jeez. There could be a guy that we're not talking about. I mean, that we're not paying attention to, a little bit off the board, that Scott Woodward has his sights set on. But as far as the names that people are collectively talking about that are getting the most run, the Lane Kiffins, the Luke Fickles, James Franklins, the PJ Flex, the Mel Tucker. I've even heard Eric Bieniemy's name since Rowe mentioned it last Saturday night here on our post-game show following the LSU Kentucky game. I've even seen his name bounced around a little bit. I think that when you look at that group, they all have a certain amount of risk to them, outside of really Lane Kiffin. And Joseph Katib says define risk. I just think risk is defined in this scenario as you hadn't seen it yet. I mean, I guess James Franklin and Lane Kiffin would be really two guys that you have seen them really game plan, recruit, run a big-time program that is at the level of LSU in this mix. Outside of that, there is a risk to bringing in the rest of the names to run the size of the program that LSU is and the day-to-day functionality that comes along with it, in my opinion. Now, I know that all of these guys are football coaches. They all aspire to run big programs, and they're setting themselves up. I mean, Napier has done a great job of running and establishing a culture down in Lafayette. The size and scope of LSU's job compared to the Cajuns' gig is drastically different. Is he prepared and ready to run that day-to-day? Probably. Looks like it, but there's a risk to it. You don't know. You know that Lane Kiffin can do that. He's done that in Oxford. He's even had opportunities at USC and Tennessee, which are, at the time, were on LSU's level. James Franklin at Penn State, even a short flirtation down here in the SEC at Vanderbilt, in which he had very much high success, shows and proves to you that the risk on Franklin of giving him the keys to a program the size of LSU is not that risky. So I think that is a feeling that the powers that be in this have, in the sense of, man, there's a little bit of an anxious feeling of if you kind of get outside of the Lane Kiffins and the James Franklins, how much do you trust that the next guy can run the program? I mean, even Jay Johnson to a degree in Arizona. I mean, Arizona has had really big success under Johnson, but before he got there, that was really a dormant program for a long time, that Arizona baseball program.
Yeah, and he steps in and brings with the College World Series his first year in. Then he has a little, he has the drop off, but then you see him start to be able to recruit his guys and get them in there, and he got them back to almost to Omaha, and he was a name that you should be expected to be in this LSU head coaching search whenever that was the time in baseball. But doesn't that make you think, whenever Woodward's floating these names out, you can't trust the first ones you hear? Because you remember, we got smokescreened to death during the baseball hire.
Yeah.
He was floating out names from the Virginia head coach to the retired Oregon State head coach. He was all over the map just trying to get a feel for the program, and also just what he really does is let the entire populace around LSU just talk. And there's nothing confirmed or denied. He just lets you kind of twist in the wind and while he's working. So he doesn't have to answer any questions when you do it that way, because there's nothing to ask him.
That's how business is run at this level.
Right, exactly.
I mean, really and truly, I think that, from my point of view and from the job that we were doing, when I got into this job, we were covering LSU, and Joe Oliva was the head coach, or excuse me, the athletics director at LSU. And, we really kind of got spoiled in this business because Oliva had no idea how to find leaks in his own office and stop them. The information that was happening behind closed doors at LSU was so on the street. It was so much in the public at the time that, we knew almost before people at LSU knew. And the way that Woodward does business is so polarizingly opposite of that it's shocking. But the reality is that's how good business is run. LSU is so out of whack under the direction of Joe Oliva that they couldn't even keep their business in-house. Like, nobody even believed and trusted in him in the building, that people would leave meetings and be like, you got to hear what this dumb son of a bitch was talking about just a minute ago. Like, he wants to extend Miles, yet he hates him.
And he wanted to fire him.
So that part with Woodward, I don't think anybody knows. Anybody that tells you that they really know what Woodward is doing in major decisions like this, from my experience in just knowing him from the friends like we do, and we have a good relationship, but not one where he's going to give me any type of information
or tell you the next head coach of LSU football.
I don't think he has I don't think he has a relationship with anybody like that. Like, really and truly, it would not surprise me if that Stephanie Remph and Scott Woodward are the only two people that know right now. Maybe Verge. Outside of that, I'd put my life on it that nobody has any idea of what they're thinking. And I'm talking about the president too. Maybe because he's a new president, maybe they're working together. I don't know. But it feels like that's how Scott Woodward operates. And for all intents and purposes, I know it sucks for us. I would love to have like a little bit of a leak. Somebody to just tell me, give me an idea, but
there's nobody to talk to.
It's not happening. He's not going to give you any idea of what is going on, of what's happening.
How long can he get away with this maneuver right now? Because if LSU football continues to be in the shitter, like, there's going to be questions and calling for answers and heads and interims, and then you're losing that a little bit of the magic comes off of LSU at that point. Whatever, if they continue to lose like this, like, obviously, whoever your next head coach is going to be isn't looking at LSU in a game plan results business. They're not looking to see if LSU finishes the season good or bad. They know the players that are on the roster. But as people that are fans and contribute to the program and give money, you're losing money in terms of people attending games and just the public perception of LSU. He has to give like a little crumb of something just to ease the minds of LSU fans, I would imagine.
I think the first statement that they'll have to make will be post-Saturday, because I believe this to be true right now, that Saturday is going to look like a high school game in the stadium as far as the attendance goes.
And not Texas high school.
I'm talking like it's going to be barren in that stadium. That's what I feel. I think them lifting the COVID mandates and protocols was the first sign that they were saying behind closed doors, whatever we have to do to get people out here, let's do it. Well, you should probably lift those do it. Just get rid of them now. I mean, because we've talked about this. The momentum that you're losing, that has lost through the season, the announcement that Kayshon Boutte, Ali Gay are out for Saturday, Boutte indefinitely for the rest of the season. There's speculation around Gay on whether or not he can return. There's tons of smoke out there right now on transfer portal names. I mean, I have heard some of the, name them, Eli Ricks, Mason Smith, all of the top, Brian Thomas, that schools are coming after. I mean, it is a barrage every single day, fires every single day that LSU personnel is trying to extinguish with players in the program that are getting and fielding and listening to other schools right now. That's happening, confirmed. So the combination of what Saturday could potentially look like, and I'm talking about sub 50,000 at an LSU football game, and that's really the loudest voice that the paying public, the consumer, the ticket buyer, has. Don't show up. That will cause reaction. Because when you mess with the money, then they have to make a move. And I think this Saturday is going to be a clear message to the LSU administration that people are over it. It's it doesn't move the meter at all. Ed Ogeron, Derek Panamsky, and crew have pulled their pants down and taken a dump on the LSU football program for the last 5 years, and people are through with it. It's over. So I think that potentially the administration may have to make a statement over the next couple of days, or maybe the move is made after they see that they have lost so much ground compared to their competition in fan support, recruiting, on the field product, that it's going to force their hand to shake this thing up. And that may not cause a difference immediately. But the leadership right now is so stale and so turned off by the public that it's got to be tough to function day to day. I mean, it really does. It has to be really just. I mean, I talked to people up at the LSU football office over the last couple of days. It is pins and needles up there. It is so just intense. How many workplaces have you been in? How many of you that have been to school, class, work, know the feeling? Home. Been inside your house where you and your spouse, you and your kids. Been at work between you and your boss, you and coworkers. Been in a classroom between you and teachers, you and fellow classmates, where it's just awkward. It's just uncomfortable. Nobody's making eye contact with anybody. Everybody's got their office door closed. Nobody's coming out in the hall. Nobody's talking to each other. Nobody wants to bring up the 800-pound pink elephant in the room that is always around you. How long are we going to be here? When are they going to fire him? What is going on? And that's creating a mood and a intensity around there that is just,
unbearable.
You can feel it, man. You can sense it. You can feel it when you talk to them, that it's just brutal. It's a brutal work environment. So maybe this Saturday, the message that I believe is going to be sent, because
money talks, and that'll be a hell of a scene, right? To see Tiger Stadium versus Florida in the middle of October with 45,000 people there. You know what 45,000 people looks like in a 100,000 seat facility? I mean, it's going to look like Catholic High versus Capital. Like the spring game.
Jesse McCormick, the suites need to be open to the general public on Saturday. What a scene. What a scene that would be. Just mayhem.
Oh, my God. Just have hot dogs and hamburgers in everybody's pockets. That's what happens the one time I went up there. You don't let the regular people up there. I'm telling you, they don't know how to handle it. I've been up there once, left with hot dogs and hamburgers in my pockets because I don't know how to act whenever there's just free things around.
A-Bears,
don't let them in.
A-Bears specialty meats. Remember, if you are tailgating this weekend, if you're heading out to a game on Friday night, if you're heading out to a game on Saturday night, if you're heading to see the Saints on Monday in Seattle, that would be. So you're not probably doing that. Remember, A-Bear Specialty Meats can get you set up. They've got the home. That is the home of the debone stuffed chicken, boudin, steaks, ground meat, all of that, getting you ready for the tailgate this weekend. abearsmarkets.com, Highway 73 in Dutchtown. Located right next to the Dutchtown High School Shopping Center. Get in there and check them out over at A-Bears. As we said, the home of the debone stuffed chicken, and always getting you set up for tailgate season. We were talking about tickets yesterday, and we gave a couple out to Jay Maggio, who is a listener here. And since I announced yesterday on the show that we had tickets available, I got more text messages, more emails, more people that have, kind of DM saying, we got tickets too. Can you help us get rid of them?
No, I thought it was gonna be the other thing.
So did I.
No.
Like I would get emails yesterday with the subject line tickets, and I'm like, I was thinking people were like, do you have those two that you were talking about this morning? And I mean, it was 2 back-to-back emails open enough of people, saying like, hey, I saw that you were helping people get rid of tickets this morning. Can you help us?
You're a philanthropist.
It just, yeah, right. I mean, it's just
full-on rapist.
I think it is kind of a sign of what we talked about, the times of where LSU is and just kind of going into this weekend. It is a Wednesday, so we should have some storylines to talk about with Ogeron on the teleconference and on his radio show tonight. So we'll just wait and see. Mikey Mahtook, LSU All-American, former first-round pick of the Rays, now in the White Sox organization. His offseason is back down home, and he is now a part of the Jordy Culotta show. We love the addition of Mahtook. He has been fantastic to just have some dialogue with here on the set. We got some exciting stuff that we're talking about creating around Mikey and some programming that we're going to be doing. I know you're going this weekend, right?
I'm there.
This is because your first game back.
Yeah, back to the ticket situation.
Yes.
I put out a couple feelers, and usually it's about, you get one person come back, yeah, I think I can find you tickets. I had all 5 people come back and say, I got tickets. I'm like, well, I only need one set, but there's a lot available.
What do you think it's going to be like on Saturday?
I mean, I know
I know you're there. I know you're there. I know you're there in the purple and gold. You're supporting.
Man, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know how. I mean, it could be electric. We start off hot. It could be great. I think it's going to be more to the, hey, we're still waking up type of thing. And hopefully, if we don't start off hot, it's going to look like you're in church, I think.
How much does that affect the players on the field? How much it does?
A lot. I think. I mean, they know you can only generate enough self-motivation. Like, you're motivated for the game, right? Like, for sure. But, like, you can only generate enough, like, self-juice to, like, really get it going. And if you start off slow and you're getting some boo birds and people are starting to leave and they score, we score a touchdown in the student section and, like, the student section is half full. Mm-hmm. That's just like, damn, what is going on? That's
been the most to me, that's been the most positive part about the in-game experience has been the students. I mean, that was always the part that you always had to rally and, like, ask the students to stay for 4 quarters. You can tell being away from that for a year really was like, hey, man, that kind of was like something that they took for granted. Like when you have that opportunity taken away from you, you're like, oh, man, we only have so many of these every semester.
Right.
We got to take advantage of this.
I said yes during this summer, like when football was really starting to heat up. I was telling all my boys on the team, I was like, man, people back home, we have not tailgated for over a year. Like,
right.
It is going to be absolutely insane. And then we got off to this slow start. Like, if LSU beats UCLA and they get to the Auburn game undefeated, I feel like it would have been one of the loudest, most upbeat home. Just because it's just we haven't ever in the history of LSU, I say history, in my history and probably my parents' history of never had a tailgating season. You know what I mean? Like, you've never had to take away something that our fan base is so passionate about ever before, and you did it, and now we're all back, and it's just like the first game, just like a nut punch.
It feels like you're missing it again, right? Doesn't it feel like it? Yeah. You can't really go to games again for 2 years in a row almost, just because of how this LSU season has started. Like, the Auburn game was close. Like, even with the one loss to UCLA.
Yeah, I wasn't there, so I don't know. Yeah,
but it started to trend in the right direction. You could see that people wanted to be out there and wanted to go. Even in the bad weather, it was still a pretty raucous environment. And then whenever the game starts to turn the way it does, everybody kind of filed out, and they won't be back for the year.
Yeah, I forgot it was bad weather, but it wasn't. They didn't have a sold-out crowd, right? It wasn't.
It was close to 100,000.
It was close.
It was packed.
It was close.
I heard people were saying there was only like
because people left at halftime.
They left in the fourth quarter.
Okay.
Which was, like. It is a sign of the times, but it also shows you the PTSD that people have about traffic. I mean, that was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter, and it was a great environment, Saturday night in Tiger Stadium, and by the time it hit the midway point of the fourth quarter, it was almost empty. You know what I mean? For certain sections of that game. But yes, I mean, like they have had their opportunities to rally the group, and I still think that it's a pretty good tailgating scene on Saturday morning, just because it's going to be a pretty. It should be a great day.
I mean, the weather's going to be awesome,
right?
I mean, I think the high on Saturday, it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be a great fall Saturday morning. Now, you won't have a lot of time. Usually these days they're fun or more post tailgate games.
Right. And I hope somehow, some way, we win or we make this exciting,
just a good
something,
scene.
And just something, and we tailgate after, because like that's fun.
You can tailgate after, but it might just be some sad drinking. That's a lot of
the
sitting around the
party
TV.
box after the games are probably more fun than before the games.
Yeah,
No
that's
doubt
when
about
they
it.
get the real the group. And like, all right, we can, because everybody gets to relax.
The OGs come back.
Weed out all the nerds.
Exactly. Y'all go sit in traffic. We'll be right here.
Remember, daily, we're brought to you by Johnson and Spillers. They are our dentist here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Get in touch with them. Gonzales and in Baton Rouge, both locations are online at johnsonspillers.com. General dentistry, pediatric dentistry, all of that is available to you online at johnsonspillers.com. Also on Facebook and social media. Baseball last night.
Great.
Dodgers back.
But I mean, that's kind of what you expected.
Yeah.
You know,
Explosion like that.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I was actually talking about this morning. I had a nice little workout, plugged to F45.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Great workout.
These morning workouts. I gotta get in on the
Hey,
train, dude.
hey,
It's a game changer,
I
bro.
came here ready to go.
Exactly.
I see you springing.
Yeah,
Endorphins are flowing.
Yeah.
Springy.
I was saying this morning, I said, losing 7-2, like that doesn't look good, but if you watch the game, the way the Dodgers started, their pitching staff started, they're walking guys, they're behind a lot of counts. They just put themselves in a lot of trouble early on. Only lose by 5 in like that situation. I mean, they were down, I think 4-0 or 5-0, and they scored a run, made it 5-1, and it just to keep it relatively close to where like something crazy could have happened and you could have won. With the way the pitching was, I think it was good. There's no moral victories in the postseason, especially when you have the most wins in baseball and you're playing the Dodgers, but. I mean, dude, the Dodgers threw
Bueller
on 3 days rest, and he came out there and he shoved. He didn't make it all the way through 5, but he pitched into the fifth inning, yeah. And I mean, he looked good. And you know, Mookie hit an Oppo Taco for a homer, and you know he's starting to swing it. Bellinger's looks like he's starting to kind of get into his groove after he had an awful season, which I sucks, man. Like when you get in a situation like that, man, and you start. He's an MVP 2 years ago, right? Like he's a stud, and he was kind of banged up a little bit, and he got off to a super slow start, and then he's trying to make some tweaks with his swing, and like, dude, that's such a mental battle.
Yeah.
Like that's so hard to like get through because every stadium you go to, and it's the big league, so like you have these big jumbotrons. Every stadium you go to, you're sitting there and you're like, damn, I'm hitting 160, 170. My OPS is under 600. And then you're the MVP. You're playing on one of the best teams in baseball. So you know the people behind home plate who pay thousands of dollars for that tickets and they're drunk and all they want to do is hammer you are sitting there and just not letting you forget that you're hitting 150.
Well, and you have to go every day, and you see it go from 185, 183, 180, 176.
Right.
You're like, Jesus Christ, dude, I can't get a hit.
And then you're at the as the season goes on, your at bats start to accumulate, and you probably let's say you get to 300, 350 at bats, and you're hitting 170. You go 3 for 4, and like now you're hitting 178. Like it's not gonna jump up high. It's hard when you get to that point and that long. It's hard to like make it back. And so I think, you know, they said a lot on the broadcast last night, but you know, I think it's a relief for him that now it's the postseason. I think it's a clean slate, so you don't have to look at your average anymore. You don't have to look at okay, whatever happened during the season, and I think he's starting to swing it a little bit better.
And you can erase all of that with a good postseason
with a good
run.
postseason.
Yeah.
If you have some big knocks, like oh there he is, like it was just a fluke, like he had a bad year, but he's back.
He'd be a hero.
Yeah, and so man, tomorrow's gonna be fun. Gosman's gonna be. He's not starting. Logan Webb's starting, but Gosman's gonna be available. I mean, I would assume that the whole bullpen. Or the whole pitching staff is up for the Dodgers game, and then the White Sox kind of got their shit pushed in. But
Golly, 10-1.
Yeah,
It didn't feel like it was that close.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a good matchup for him, man. don't know. Tapera probably shouldn't have said what he said either.
Yeah.
You know, I think that.
That just
I mean,
lights
I
the
know
fire
he came
to
in.
kill him.
I know he came in. He had a 1-2-3 inning, and he got out the inning no problem. But like
The motivation that gave the other dugout.
yeah, you could see. I mean, the pitcher, McCullers, right after the game, post game interview. He basically said that he goes, it's a typical Astro win. We had great pitching, we had great defense, timely hitting on the road. Can you imagine that? Like, obviously, they know. Like they're not like whatever. They didn't shoo it off. Like that was like.
It was on the forefront.
Yeah,
of their
it was
mind.
like a motivation for them. Like, oh, screw this guy, man. Like, who is you to come out here and say, like, get the fuck out of here?
Right.
Sorry.
No.
But-
Welcome to the platform,
That's
baby.
right.
Welcome to
But,
the
like,
platform.
Well, even Correa got up there and said something. He was like, obviously he doesn't look at the stats. We had the best road splits of any
Right.
team in baseball, so that little boy can sit down. Like, so he's like they're not mentioning that. The Astros love when they get into this pissing match about the stealings of signs because it fires them up again. They want to be the bad boys of
And
baseball.
that's the thing. They embrace that,
Yeah.
which is awesome. Like, hey, dude, if something's going on and you're in the middle of like some sort of like controversy, that's not like, controversy is in like saying something stupid or like, but controversy on the field of like, oh, they cheated, but like there's some stories out there and you're in the middle of that. Embrace being the asshole. Embrace
absolutely.
being, you know what I mean? Like embrace.
I'd go
that.
all black unis.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I mean, like
and
just
that's good. Then
play the heel.
Then the crowd embraces that, and then you got energy in the crowd because now they got something to back. It's just, I think that's great. But it was just a bad matchup for the White Sox, and the Astros are hot, man. They had home field advantage, and it was just tough.
Well, it's just especially because it's everybody on the team. It's not one guy got caught doing something. It's like the whole team was embroiled in the controversy. So whenever they hear something, they all kind of buck up a little bit.
Well, and then a lot of the main guys, especially the guys that are still there, that like Correa, and you had Altuve. Like Altuve talked about the buzzer with Altuve. Like, look, some of those things are exaggerated and not true, obviously. And like, there's always two sides of the story. There's always like, his side, this side, and then what actually happened. You know what I mean? And, look, did they cheat? Yeah. But that's 3 years ago. Who cares? It's over. Everybody knows you cheated. The only people that should be mad that you cheated were probably the teams that you beat. The Yankees and the Dodgers.
Yeah.
But, dude, come on. Get over it.
Jeff Marcone asked Mikey, don't all MLB teams still signs? The whole Astros thing is a little overblown at this point.
Well, yes, they do all steal signs, but you steal signs in like the gamesmanship way. Like you're on second base and the guy's doing his sequences and his sequences, and so you're sitting at second and you're reading, okay, fastball, and then you're giving some sort of sign to the hitter. That is fine, right? Like you're giving like, whatever it is. You're looking, you're shuffling with one foot, you have your hands doing something. Like that's gamesmanship, right? That's been there forever. When you start using technology and you start using stuff outside of the field that's not within the game, I think that's when you start crossing lines. So the the Astros are using the monitors inside to look at the signs and then relay it so you can like that's not gamesmanship. Like that's actually cheating.
Is it hard to steal signs from second base?
Yeah, I stink at it, but
I would be terrible at that.
So the way
you gotta pay attention the whole time.
Yeah. So what happens is, especially now after that whole thing, the teams that steal the signs the best are the most paranoid, right? And you can tell, like teams that do it and do it well.
Did you do it in college?
No. Some teams do. It's just because college you usually get now they have like the wristband and like they're not giving whatever. Yeah. But so like for instance, this is how we would probably try to go into a game stealing sign. So we've faced this guy pitching before, and we'll go look at his other starts, which everybody does. You look at their old starts, how they pitched you, how they attacked you, whatever. Then you look at the catcher's signals or the signs, right? And so the way he's signing, you're like, okay, this guy likes to do strikes plus one, which means if there's 0 strikes, the first sign, because it's strikes plus one. So if it's no 0 count, you got the first sign. 0-1 count, second sign. 0-2 count, third sign, right? That's very elementary sign. Then some teams will say, some pitchers are like, all right, I want shake for, or it's going to be like, he shows the first sign, right? So whenever they show that first sign again, it's the sign after that.
That's the indicator.
Yeah. So like they have a bunch of different things. So you look at it like, okay, that's what they're doing. When you get to second base, if you're on second base, look there. If that's it, relay it. If you don't have it, you just go through the other list. But like we're gonna start with what he likes to use, and you go from there, and then you relay it. And like that has been there forever.
Yeah.
And that's not cheating to me. That's gamesmanship. But the minute you start using technology, like we used to, there's stories from like people hiring like guys to go sit in the stands. Like I've played with, I'm not saying no names.
Yeah.
No names. I've played with guys, and he got in trouble. I wasn't there when he was doing it. He got in trouble before I got there. He had a guy that would travel with him always. Put him out in the outfield.
What a gig.
Put him out in the outfield, and he would wear the opposing team's gear. And sit out there and look at the signs from center field, and he'd have a towel, and he'd put it over his shoulder. And whenever the towel, whatever's, like if it was, say, if the towel was over his right shoulder, it's a fastball. Left shoulder, off speed. And the guy raked. The guy was he was a great player with or without that, but like, I mean, hey, dude, like, just trying to get an advantage.
Give me an advantage.
Like, yeah, if I know a fastball's coming, like, I'm going to hit it.
When you have the sign, how much does your percentage go up of hitting the ball?
Pretty high.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, because at that point, it's like,
you're just kind of waiting.
You're looking at location. You're like, hey, okay, it's a fastball. Where do I want to hit it? Like, okay, I'm looking out over the middle of the plate for a heater. And then if it's a breaking ball, like, I just want to see this ball up. If not, I can just take it.
Spit on it.
Yep.
Randy Lanois, the godfather of our show, asked Mikey Mahtook, do you believe KG gets paid next season, Kevin Gausman?
Do I believe it gets paid? He gets paid. Especially they win tomorrow and they make a big run. He throws well. He's gonna get paid. I mean,
$100 million?
I think so. I think that's in
play.
Good
for him.
Yeah, I think that's in play. I mean, they gave him the qualifying offer last year, which was $18.9 million, right? So it's a 1-year deal. He turned down multi-year deals, signed that, and had his best year of his career. Like he's number one numbers. Like he had a sub-3 ERA, over 200 strikeouts, 180 whatever innings it was, and on the best team in baseball. Like absolutely going to get paid, you know. And he's 30. I think this is his 30 season, so he'll be 31 next year. Like I would not be surprised if they said, hey, here's a 4-year, $100 million deal. Here's a 5-year, $120 million deal. Like, it wouldn't be... I mean, they don't...
That's just baseball contracts.
Well, yeah, and like baseball, the way baseball works, the way what the union does and what they look at is not necessarily the amount. Like, yeah, that is important, but they look at the AAV, so average annual value, right? So if Kevin signs a 5-year, $120 million deal, that's... What is that? $20 million a year? No.
Wait, 5 for 120?
So let's say if he signs 5 for 100, that's $20 million a year, right? Which that would put him in the upper echelon, but not the highest class of starting pitchers, right? Which is, I mean, because like if you're the highest class starting pitchers, you're talking about like the Scherzers and the.
Is Nola there yet?
Well, Nola already signed a deal. His deal should be up. Nola had a good strikeout year. His ERA was a little high this year, but I mean, if he would have waited a little bit longer, he would have signed. I think he'd have signed a bigger deal. But I mean,
it's kind of like the Daniil Hunter deal.
You give Austin and Aaron a roof over their head and a boat to go fishing. They're happy, dude. Like
a hammer and a nail.
Yeah, like they're good. Awesome. Like
a ball and a stick is great.
And that's a credit to Stacy and Tweety, their parents. Like. They're just awesome.
They don't make them any better.
Awesome people. They do not make them any better. And it's like, dude, they don't need. Yeah. Aaron's like, you're gonna give me $75 million into my deal? Like, yeah. I mean, of course, the 75. Like, I'm not saying it's not. Like, it's a lot. That's life-changing money. But like, he waits the next year, he probably makes double that. He makes 140.
Right. You know, he's probably got 74.8 in the bank.
He'll sign another deal. Like once his contract's up. Which I think it's going to be up in a couple of years, maybe a year or two. He'll sign another one.
He'll probably be a Philly for life just because like this guy's so easy to deal with. We can throw any number at him. He's like, actually, that sounds great. Like there's no hard bargaling at the table. It's like you do the same deal we did last time, even though I just want to Cy Young. Like sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And they're doing the CBA this year, so there'll be a new CBA, which hopefully it happens quick. Which I think it's going to be better than people think because they've had some some pretty good.
What's your main
dialogue.
objective? What is y'all's main objective?
Man, there's a few things. So we haven't really done really well with the CBA, but like we want to shorten arbitration, shorten free agency. I mean, right now, teams own you for like 7 years.
Ugh.
So you get to the big leagues, you have 3 years of arbitration. You have 3 years to get to arbitration. Then you have 3 years of arbitration. Then you're a free agent. So let's just say you get to the big leagues at 24, right? Which is young.
Sure.
Pretty relatively young. Like you're seeing these 2021, but like that's like an anomaly. You get
It's an outlier.
Yeah, like 24, 25 is like pretty.
Break in.
Yeah, pretty good. Then you go through all of that, and you're free agent at 30, 31. Now they want younger players. Oh, no. We're not going to pay you anymore because you're 31. Well, I did all of this for 6 years, and now you don't want to pay me my money for everything that I've done. Like that's not fair because they want these younger guys. So like the way the contracts and everything work in baseball, it's very archaic right now. It takes too long. You know, it's
like a music label.
It's hard to stay. It's hard to get to the big leagues. It's harder to stay there.
Uh-huh.
And if you're not getting paid, if you're getting paid early, it's easier to stay. You'll be able to get because they're paying you, so they're not going to let you go. You know, but if they're only paying you minimum or like $1 million or 1.2, and you're not really performing, they don't care. They'll get rid of that. So that's part of it. I think they want to get rid of. They want to up the minimums, the league minimum, so that veteran guys like me and like other guys that are in the big leagues, that their money, the difference between their money and the rookie minimum isn't too. The discrepancy is not too large.
That's what the NFL ran into a couple years ago.
Yeah.
The Jamarcus Russell contract.
Yeah.
Really pushed him over the top.
Right, and so it's like if I'm a solid player with 3 years of big league experience and I'm asking for $1.5 million in free agency, but you have another, and I'm probably not going to be a starter, I'll be a role guy, and you have a rookie who's coming up, who's 23, he may not quite be ready yet, but we don't think he's going to be a starter right now, and you want him on the bench, and he's making $550, like, yeah, we'll save $1 million there. You know, we'll save $2 million on this guy, even though that the other guy probably would help us, but teams don't want to win anymore. Like, there's so much revenue sharing going on that, like, there's no incentive to win. Like, guys can lose 100 games, teams can lose 100 games and still make a ton of money. So they're like, well, what's my
Like
reason?
Pittsburgh, will they ever win a
Yeah.
championship again?
I mean,
Cincinnati, you know what I mean?
Cincinnati will. Cincinnati's good. They almost made the playoffs this year. Like, they're good. It's just tough to pitch there because that stadium's a band. Like, the ball flies. But they can hit. Like, they're good. They have some good young players. But Pittsburgh's struggling. They're not very good. They haven't been good for a while. I mean, I think they could win. You know, they have some history and tradition there, but they're not going to win until you force them to try to win.
Right.
You know, like,
they're okay with not winning.
right, because they're making all this money, right? They're getting the Yankees and all these teams that go out there and win. They're making this money, and everybody looks at Tampa like, oh, well, Tampa does it. Well, there's only one Tampa Bay Rays. Like, they've been doing that from the beginning, they've perfected it. Not everybody can do what and everybody's tried to replicate it. You can't. It's just hard.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think that there's talks about, like, I know they came up with something. There's talks about having, like, a salary floor. But the whole thing about baseball and the thing that we've done for a long time is we didn't ever want to agree to a cap, right? We don't ever want to have a salary cap. We have kind of like a de facto cap in the luxury tax, which is at, like, $210 million. And so, like, they offered a floor. They brought the cap down, which obviously we're not going to agree to that. But the fact that they made a pretty decent offer first, I think that bodes well for the negotiations moving forward.
Mikey Mahtook is with us. He's been a regular here on the Jordy Culotta show. They handed out a new number 8 with LSU baseball. Gavin Dugas. Yeah,
nice.
Gavin Dugas is going to wear it. Matthew Beck last year.
Matthew Beck. Yeah, I was hoping that they would keep that going.
Yeah.
I didn't see that, but that's awesome. That's a perfect person to wear it.
Tell me about the number 8 fraternity. How's that work?
So it kind of like the 18.
Yeah.
You know.
Was that kind of the model y'all took from?
So I was when I got to LSU, I was number 8. Now, obviously, this wasn't in my head until after when I was about to leave, and I saw how 18 did that, and like it was really cool how they kept the former guys involved, and it just kind of meant something. It was something that I thought was really cool, especially.
So it was kind of like it was your idea?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So it didn't turn out. It didn't start that way though. Like it didn't start like, oh, this is gonna be like a thing that's gonna happen. So what happened was I was there.
So it's surprising you now how long it's lived.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I mean, I love it. So like, what happened was I was number 8 from my 3 years there, and then I left. And Mason Katz was still there, and me and Mason are really, really good friends. And so he was like, it was almost like you're passing the baton to the next guy who's going to be the leader. And he was number 5, and I asked him, I was like, hey, dude, like, what do you think about taking number 8? Like, I've had number 8 since I was in high school. It was just one of my number, and I was like, I think it'd be cool. Like, I don't know if it would be like the football thing, but like it would just kind of be. He's like, absolutely. And then Mason goes out, hits like 15, 7, whatever, how he braked, All-American, and then he passed it down to Bregman. And once that happened, it just kept going. Jake Fraley. I mean, I think there's been 3 big leaguers that have had 8 so far, and you just keep passing it down.
You, Fraley, and Bregman.
Me, Fraley, and Bregman, I think were the only ones. And then you had Cole Freeman had it one year.
Yeah.
It just turned into a pretty cool thing. Beck was the first pitcher that's ever had it, which I think was kind of cool. I know he got hurt, but it's not about the best player on the team.
Sure.
It's about the guy who's going to personify what LSU baseball means and what I thought it meant. And
did you and Johnson talk about that when y'all met?
No.
Really?
That's why I was actually gonna talk to him about it, know if he knew about it or like what, and that fires me. That makes me like Jay even more.
That is.
Yeah.
Gavin Dugas, for him to get that number shows you that it's going on because that cat's a leader.
And that is like he is why I want to do. Like he's the guy. Yes, he's like the person that.
A little bit like Cole Freeman, where it's just like the gutty guy that's going to go out there and give your all for LSU.
But like you look at Gavin, like I mean, he hit 20 homers last year, and like
timely too.
Yeah,
bro.
Like
I mean, when you
clutch.
needed to have it, he would.
Yeah, he could have left. He could have gone. He could have left.
But then you look
at
all the guys in the lineup, talent wise, like talent wise and like hype wise, all that stuff. And Gavin Dugas not at the top of that list.
Yeah, for sure.
And like that's what I wanted that to be. Is like, hey, this guy is like, he loves LSU. Like this is what like he's kind of like a 1990s LSU player. You know what I mean? Like just bopping homers. Not gonna he didn't hit for a super high average, but like, hey guys, game's on the line. He's up. He's probably gonna get a hit.
Who was your favorite LSU baseball player growing up?
Oh man, there's a lot. Growing up, honestly, because I was early 2000s were like
that was your time.
I was like old enough to understand it, and that's when I was like really starting to like really enjoy baseball. And he's gonna love it. I hope he's listening. Mike Fontenot.
Oh,
yeah, Font.
You better be listening.
I got to Mike was actually my roommate my first year in AAA. My road roommate. Yeah, he was trying to come back up, and 2014 when I first got there.
Strongest hands in baseball. The dude's.
He's great. And so then he would funny story about Fontenot. So Font, like he's kind of a bulldog, right? He gets the red ass a little bit.
Yeah.
But then I kind of do the same thing. So I'm like I'm 24. I'm trying to like
break through.
Yeah. And so like I had a couple at bats early on, and I like lined out. I was kind of in this slump and like hit it, got out, put my stuff in the bat rack. I'm sitting down like this, like trying to like just contemplating like what the heck's going on. All of a sudden, and I'm not gonna be able to do it exactly right because I'm like on this couch. So Fontenot comes, and he's from the other side of the bench, and he slides like right next to me.
Just to Chris Collinsworth.
Yeah, right next to me, like hits me, and I look at him. He goes, "Hey, you pissed?" I'm like, I wanted to get so mad. I looked at him, I'm like, "Yes, I'm pissed. Yes, I couldn't do anything." So fast forward like 2 months, he's having like a really unlucky game, like hitting some balls hard, and then like he gets pissed off. He's sitting down there. I did the same thing. I slide next to him. Hey, you pissed? And he wanted to punch me in the face. He's like, I can't. You're right. I can't do anything. And like, it's great. Like to have some levity like that. Like that's awesome.
His kid, Bowen Fontenot. Have you seen the swing on that kid?
Hey, Bowen's my guy. Bowen was there with us.
Looks like Ken Griffey Jr.,
dude,
bro.
He could imitate everybody's swing on the team. He was a G.
He
Bowen's
rakes
a G.
for a 9-year-old,
Yeah.
bro.
But when he's hanging out with professional baseball
He
players,
grew up in a locker room.
Grew up in a locker room.
Grew up in the clubhouse.
His dad hit 21 homers his freshman year in college. Like,
his freshman year, bro.
And Mike's a little guy,
His freshman year was incredible. His freshman year was 2000. Was it the national championship season?
Yep.
Mikey Mahtook is with us. Remember, we are brought to you daily, and we reminded you about our new sponsor the other day, and we're fired up about it, man. This is Relief Med, reliefmed.com. Medical marijuana is legal, it's safe, and it's a simple process, and now it's available to the people in Louisiana. A lot of people do not know that, but we've all read the stories. We've seen the news over the last several years that Louisiana has legalized medical marijuana, but you never really heard anything after that. You certainly never saw any shops open up or were told about the process or who qualifies. Let us tell you here about it here on the Jordy Culotta Show. It's real, it's here, it's easy, and it's 100% legal. In fact, LSU and Southern are the two entities that are actually growing the marijuana here in the state of Louisiana. If you suffer from arthritis, chronic pain, depression, insomnia, PTSD, cancer, epilepsy, if you hate your college football team's head coach and it stresses you out to a point that you need to go see the doctor over at Relief Med, you can log online today to RELEAF, L-E-A-F, med.com. Reliefmed.com is where you can find them online. It is very easy to get started. It is a virtual visit right there. The full list of who qualifies is easy to find right there on the reliefmed.com. Go to Relief Med, click Get Relief Now, fill out a new form, pay your $199, which is an annual fee, and you can get the same-day telemedicine visit with a Louisiana licensed physician online at reliefmed.com.
Dealer doesn't make me do that.
Yes, that's right. That's right. We're gonna get the whole show signed up over here. I am in the program.
In the portal.
Yeah, right.
In the weeds.
I'm in the weeds. I'm in the weeds. You should be too.
The stress and anxiety of what an Ogeron has done to me.
My man Larry Sane is having an aneurysm inside of the chat app here. Freaking out over.
He needs to go to Relief Med.
Over
Exactly.
Ogeron.
Yeah.
Larry, you do need to get over to Relief Med. It is very easy to process. Just log online to RELEAF med.com. He screams all caps, "Jordy, you prick!"
Hey, promo
Love
code
that. That's what
You
you know you're doing something
prick.
right.
Promo code Larry.
O will be here until after the early signing period. Book it, he says. Hey, Larry,
You heard it here
I'll
first.
bet you that $199 pay up front there at Relief Med that Ogeron's not here on December 1st, much less into the early signing period, and we can bet whatever you want on that. And Larry says that his logic is that Jordy and Moscona are on a mission to get O fired now. You think that it's me and Moscona that are on the mission to get O fired? How about O not having his team prepared to play the first month of the season? That doesn't mean anything to you? He says that because Moscona and I are banging on the program, that they're going to lose all the recruits. He says, y'all are acting like I don't want him gone. I know he's gone, but I don't want it to destroy another potential top 3 class. Larry.
Scott's listening to you right now, and he's listening to everything y'all are saying.
Yeah.
Scott, you're the reason why he's out
He'll
there.
keep him, Larry.
He's out there recruiting.
You heard what Moscona and Jordy said, right? I mean, if they're saying that it's time to go, we really got to get rid of this bum. If that's what they're talking about. Larry, what they're trying to do is preserve the recruiting class because people like Panamsky and Ed Ogeron have screwed it up so much that they've now got to salvage one of the best classes that this state has produced over the last decade as far as talent just within the border. I mean, if there was one season not to fall flat on your face on the field, this would have been it for Ogeron, Panamsky, and crew. Yet they come out and they still can't get a play into the line of scrimmage on time before they got to burn 4 timeouts in their SEC home opener. You think that's Moscona's fault? You think that's my fault?
Yep.
I mean, at what point do you look at your football program that you support and say, this is a circus?
Well, what's the alternative?
Right?
What are y'all supposed to do? Like pump them up and like make them happy and
You
reach
say
out to the
there's
recruits?
light at
Like,
the
what's
end
the
of the tunnel.
what's
If
all the
they can
alternative?
string this thing together, get a win. Maybe they get another win. That's how you do it.
If you don't believe that the damage of keeping Ogeron aboard is doing more harm than good at this point, then really, Larry, what you watching?
I mean, we love LSU. I want if I would love for Coach O to be the guy and be good, but like the reality is, it's not the way it's
not
happening.
working.
It's not the way it's happening. That's what you make a decision and you move on.
It is, it really is. I mean, I at this point, I don't know what you're looking at. I mean, everything from Ogeron's press conferences to his demeanor on the sideline is he's cooked. He's cashed. He knows it's inevitable. The process has started behind closed doors. They know what is coming, and it's going to happen very much sooner than later. And if you think that Ogeron is in place for the early signing period, Larry, you're lost, bro. I mean, like, isn't that kid's Larry? It is his name on the Big Lebowski.
Okay. Do your homework, Larry.
Yeah, Larry, this is what happens when you when he slams a Corvette.
Yeah. Here's his history homework.
You cannot get Ogeron out of here fast enough to preserve the program at this point, to start moving the message into a positive spin.
Look, I've never recruited football ever. Like I've gotten recruited, and I've had pitches from football and baseball sides. But if I was a recruit coming in now and this was going on and they make a change, like, don't you think hope and like, hey, you come in here, like, all we need to do is we need a few extra pieces, and then we're right there to compete again for a college play. Like, wouldn't as a high school guy, knowing the history and knowing that LSU was national champions 2 years prior, wouldn't you think like, hey, I could go to this top-notch SEC West school and go in there and play and be the guy?
Recruits look at, and you can talk to this way more than I can, but recruits look at the current product much differently than fans do, right? Yeah. I mean, like, there would be a contingency of former or potential student athletes to look at this situation with LSU and say, if you keep O aboard and it looks like this, I ain't coming.
Right.
I'm not dealing with that stuff.
Right.
But if you have somebody new in place and there's going to be playing time available, as fast as you can get that person in place to start spreading that message, the better for LSU, because the players want to see the hope. They want to see the light. They want to know that they're going to go into a program that has a leader that can put them into a program that can produce and win, and not all this chaos that's happening around it. And you also have playing time to sell me? Okay, now I'm listening.
Yep.
I don't care what y'all did last season. I don't care how bad it looked last year. Is it going to be different? Are you a new leader? Are you going to make sure that we are prepared and ready to play every week? And you telling me that I can play as a freshman? Hell, I'm listening.
Yep.
That's the message, and that is what the urgency, in my opinion, has to be around Scott Woodward and the decision makers in this process. Is, Larry, if I agree with you at one point, it is the recruiting class is absolutely paramount in this situation. Whatever LSU has to do to preserve and make sure that they are putting their best foot forward next season for this recruiting class is, to me, one of the top priorities in making this hire. Not the ultimate, but it's way up there on the list of why you have to make this happen and get it right. And the reason why you got to do it sooner rather than later is because of that early signing period that you talk about. If that early signing period comes and goes and Ogeron is still here, can you imagine what Kirby Smart, Jimbo Fisher, and Nick Saban are going to do to the state of Louisiana? If that guy is your coach? Now think about if you've got somebody in there that's spreading a message that it's a new day. There's playing time available. What you've seen of LSU football's leadership is never going to exist under whoever they hire next, if that's the message that he's spreading. That message is now going into the living room, getting into the kid, going to the mom and dad, going to the decision maker. That, okay, it's not as bad as it looked. It's not as chaotic as it came across. It's not the circus that it looked like it was on the sidelines next year. They've got the guy in place who is going to wrangle all that and get it taken care of. The longer you keep Ogeron on the job, they have now passed that point. The longer you keep Panamsky and that crew on the gig, you are setting yourself back by the day. We gave the scenario on Monday. LSU is sitting at a table with all of the SEC representatives, one of 14 schools right now, soon to be one of 16. The real estate that they own at that table, as far as football is concerned, is a pretty big region. They got a lot of power when it comes to the football discussion at the SEC table. If they don't get this thing right the next couple of weeks, they lose a tremendous amount of that property. And with with Texas and Oklahoma coming in, it's already going to shrink just by adding 2 more members. Forget the fact that it's 2 of the most powerful brands in the sport. This is a monumental time for LSU. This is a time that we will always look back on and say that was either the rocket ship that they took off or that's when they turned left and kind of got lost.
I don't want to fall back to the 90s.
No, you get relegated to the kids' table at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Like you got your seat you finally got your, the big seat where you get to drink a little wine with all the cool kids, all the cool parents. And Oklahoma and Texas come in, it's your aunt and uncle that you haven't seen in 10 years. They take your seat, and now you're back to the kids' table.
Yep.
We're not going back to the kids' table.
And that's the dire scenario for LSU behind those closed walls up there. Whoever's discussing who's going to be next is, you better get this thing right. And the risk reward that we've talked about with a lot of these guys, some are riskier more than rewarding, some are rewarding more than riskier. And you better get the guy that you believe in can get this program back to relevance and keep it there for a decade. Because the next 10 years in college football is about to be dominated by this conference. The SEC is going to produce the next 10 national champions, in my opinion. Right?
Starting this year, you think?
Yeah.
Probably. No, but he's talking about even further down the line whenever they get Oklahoma and Texas in there. I don't even know how they're going to split this thing up because they're going to a 16-team playoff. It's going to open up more room for people.
This is my question. Does that get – and I just we're kind of like pivoting off of your rant. Yeah, but getting Oklahoma and Texas, right? They're in the West.
I would think so.
They have to be.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just –
I know Missouri's in the East, but I mean they're gonna blow that thing up.
That's one they
right. But my question is, does that mean if you're looking at it geographically, does that mean Auburn and Alabama go to the East?
I think that's probably the easiest way to shake it up. I also see them maybe doing like a pod system where you've got 4 pods of 4. You got 16 teams, and you got the East Coast. You've kind of got the middle of it.
We'd still be in the toughest pod.
Probably so.
Or
you'd probably be in the Texas A&M pod. You know what I mean?
And then so we'd have the Mississippi schools and the Texas schools?
I think you'd have the Mississippi schools and the Alabama schools. And then I think you would have LSU, Texas A&M.
Oh, yeah.
Either Arkansas or Missouri.
Yeah.
It depends on what you do with
Arkansas. You probably would put Arkansas.
So you could keep Arkansas, A&M.
Yeah, then you'd have Missouri, Kentucky, Georgia, Tennessee. Vanderbilt? Dang, that would be an awful pod.
Florida.
Oh, Florida. Florida.
But I think they'll do it.
I mean, like, you do like South Carolina, Georgia, Florida.
Yeah. They've never done it geographically.
Tennessee.
Like, that's not really the way it works. I mean, but the teams aren't good enough. You have to have parity.
Kind of, right?
No, you have to have parity within. You can have all the powers in kind of one conference that beat up on each other. What I think they'll do at the beginning, at least, is just put Texas in the West, Oklahoma in the East. They make them permanent rivalries. Like they already like LSU, Florida. Like they'll have to play each other every year until they get it, unless they want to go all the way sorted and blow the entire thing up. But that's what makes it.
Dude, that's so much travel for Oklahoma.
That don't matter.
It kind of.
Yeah, but they're on a jet.
Yeah, but
they're
still
driving.
I know, but
I mean, we heard some of the horror stories of when
the
Big 12 expanded with West Virginia and put teams like that in. I mean, like some of the travel nightmares of like Texas, even Texas, who's flying commercially private, across the country and getting to West Virginia. I mean, some of those travel painstaking nights that we heard about.
And not so much about the players, just the fans. Like, the fans don't want to travel that far.
But you'll be able to get away with it for a year because they're going to go see all the new venues. Like, they'll be interested in being in the SEC. Why you try to figure it out along the way, then you reconstruct.
That is something I do hope comes from this, because I think that when you add this, there's going to be pushback of both positive and negative things that shake out from it. You're going to lose some of the rivalries in the conference. You're going to lose some of the home and homes that you get. You're going to lose some of the yearly pageantry of the SEC.
Nice.
But in return, I think you may get now an opportunity to go play everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there shouldn't be a time, in the 4 years that you spend at LSU that you shouldn't go play at every venue.
Right.
That you shouldn't see every I mean, I think the last time LSU went to Kentucky was what, 07?
07.
Yeah, they lost.
You know, I mean, that was
we don't do very well there.
I mean, that was the last time that they went there. You know, I mean, it was all. I mean, it's over a decade ago.
14.
Is that right?
I don't
Did
know.
we go back there in 14?
I think we slaughtered them. LSU slaughtered them at one point, but I find it hard to believe we would play them twice.
Not that. There's no way. It had to be after 7. Every 4 years, I would assume, right?
Right. I know Tyrann Mathieu played him at home and wrecked him.
He did.
Had that strip sack.
They came back here, and Jamal Adams returned to punt for under Jamal Adams hit the block.
Okay, so
on Trey
that's
White.
the game I was thinking of. Okay, I was there for that one too.
Where they came back and played LSU down here. We will talk to Nick Underhill here in a minute. We'll get the latest on the New Orleans Saints. Saints are traveling up to Seattle for a Monday night game. No Russell Wilson there as he's dealing with a broken finger. It looks like it'll be Geno Smith.
Time.
Love that.
For Seattle on a Monday night. We'll talk to Nick Underhill, who is the authority of the New Orleans Saints as far as the information goes. Make sure and check out neworleans.football if you want the latest. Make sure and subscribe there. But as always, we are brought to you by GoFlow IV and Hydration Spa. GoFlow is located over on Jefferson Highway, and you can find out how to get in touch with them by logging online to goflowiv.com. Remember, there's memberships available, 3-month, 6-month annual memberships. If you suffer from chronic dehydration, if you're looking to help with your skin, hair, and beauty care, if you want to athletic performance, help that out, illness recovery, chronic illness, even help with a hangover cure, they can help you over at GoFlow IV. They specialize, as we said, in Baton Rouge as the premier medical spa, specializing in IV hydration treatments with vitamin infusion. Everything's online at goflowiv.com. That is GEAUX, flowiv.com. Give us 1 minute to reset.
Trying to get him out to the party box.
Oh, love that. Bring him out there.
Yeah, get a little IV before the game time.
Especially for an 11 o'clock kick, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we need.
A lot of loose needles out there anyway.
We will talk to Nick Underhill next here on the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. Papa Earl's, the fine spice, originating right down here in South Louisiana by our guy Mark Pop Norman. Developed it back in 2018 and won Amazon's Newcomer of the Year in 2019. They pride themselves in having 30% less salt and sodium than the leading brands at the same price point. You can find them locally. Look for Papa Earl's at Rouse's, Calandro's, Mathern's, High Neighbor, and more. Gearing up for spring and summer down here in South Louisiana, and you want to keep your lawn maintained during these sunny seasons, get in touch with our friend Blake Abear over at Abear's Lawn Maintenance, where he says, you grow it, I mow it. 225-485-8022. 225-485-8022 is where you can find Abear's Lawn and Maintenance, the official lawn and maintenance company of the undisclosed location. Abear's Specialty Meats, home to the finest boudin in South Louisiana. 2 spots right here in Baton Rouge and out in Prairieville. Stop in and see them in the Dutchtown Shopping Center on Highway 73 or right here in Baton Rouge on Jefferson Highway. Online, abearsmarkets.com, and they're all over social media. You can find them on Facebook. You can find them on Instagram. Abear's combines perfect seasoning with that authentic Cajun flavor. Find out for yourself. Baton Rouge on Jefferson Highway and in Prairieville on Highway 73. abearsmarkets.com. Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, live here at the UDL with Mikey Mahtook, as he is with us every day here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Love to hear his insight. Him breaking down baseball is fantastic. If you missed it, it is back in the first hour where he was breaking down some of the playoffs that's happening here in MLB. Also got into a good discussion about LSU baseball and the number 8, as Gavin Dugas is going to be wearing the number that Mikey started the tradition back. Was it 2011? That was your last year,
My
right?
last year was 2011.
2011, yeah.
Damn,
Another
that's a
All-American
long
season.
time ago.
Was,
Wow.
bro.
Wow, it feels like yesterday.
Still remember that Cal State Fullerton game where you running down that ball early on in your senior year. That feels like that was such that was crazy.
I know.
Nick Underhill, who is here every week with us and is talking New Orleans Saints. He is the authority, as we told you coming out of the last break. If you have not gotten your subscription to NewOrleans.football, you must not really care about the Saints, because that's where the best information is. The podcast is fantastic. It is a website that you got to get over to, NewOrleans.football, and you can hear Nick Underhill every Wednesday here on the Jordy Culotta Show. It is great to hear from you, sir. Good morning. How are you?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing okay, man. New Orleans travels up to Washington and gets a win. Many would probably describe it as an ugly win, but it's a win where, to me, the takeaway, Nick, and you tell me because we always go to you on this, but Marshawn Lattimore to me really kind of stood out on Sunday and was a player that I thought, maybe the Saints take for granted every now and again on just how good he is.
Well, they just made him like one of the highest paid cornerbacks in the league, so I'm not sure.
Maybe the fan base. Sorry about that. You're right. The money does.
They do though, and I can understand that to some degree, because there's been games in the past where he hasn't been that level of player, and that's been the story with him coming into this season, is that the level of consistency with his play quality, it just hasn't been there. And against star players, he tended to step up, and against lesser guys, he would take a step back and play down to his competition, and you'd see some lapses. And, I think I would even maybe describe it as boredom. He was kind of like the genius kid. And he wouldn't do the work.
You got him?
He stepped it up this year. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Say that again.
You just went right in and out during that thought. If you could just repeat the last 10 seconds.
Yeah, so Lattimore, to me, he was kind of like the genius kid in like 6th grade math class that just was bored and wasn't always doing the work, but he passed well. That's kind of been the story with him coming into the season. But this season, it's looked like he's locked in a little bit more. I think the whole team had a letdown against the Giants. But outside of that game, he's played well. He stepped up against guys like Jacoby Myers in New England, and those are games in the past where you would kind of see him fall back a little bit. But in this one against Terry McLaurin, I mean, man, he looked like the best cornerback in the NFL. They threw at him 7 times, 8. Actually, I think it was 9 times. And he gave up 2 receptions early, forced 7 incompletions. And just, man, the way he was able to just blanket him and take him out of the game, it's kind of breathtaking to watch a little bit. I mean, just seeing a guy that's that good at his job, that ability to shadow someone. And, the good thing about that matchup is usually when someone's covering that well, you don't see the ball go their direction that many times. So it's just kind of like, oh, what happened to Julio Jones? But, like, they're throwing at him in this game, and he's making plays. And it just kind of, allowed you to see very easily the height of his coverage skills. And, I think the good thing with him is that he got that big contract. And I think it was fair to be a little bit worried about a guy that at times fell back and wasn't always locked in, how he was going to react to getting that money. He got the money. He's playing as good as he ever has, and I mean that's the best outcome you can get for the Saints.
That was a tough shot Taysom Hill took on Sunday. Any update on him?
Nothing there. They're kind of keeping that under wraps a little bit. I guess with the bye week, that's a good thing with him to see kind of. It gives you a little bit more time to get him back on the field. They are going to need him. I mean, they're already thin at tight end, and you saw in that game early, like the plan, I think, was to use him heavily in a tight end role, and that kind of altered how they approached the game a little bit. Deontay Harris, I initially heard after the game that there was some optimism about the level of his injury and how the bye being in the right place. So I don't think it was a major situation. It's possible he misses some time, but I don't think it's going to be like a significant thing that lingers too long. And then they got a laundry list of guys that should start coming back soon. I think Traquan Smith will be back for this next game. Mike Thomas can be, and I've heard good things about his situation so far. I saw him moving with my own eyes in Dallas, and he was running well. Doing some speed drills and stuff on a side field, so he looked good there. So I don't think that's going to linger too long. I think this next game is probably a little early for Will Lutz. They just signed another kicker, so I mean that supports that. But I think he's probably, at maximum, I would guess maybe 2 more games out, maybe just 1 if things go well. So things are trending in the right direction with all these injuries they have, and it's going to be like getting an injection of All-Pro and Pro Bowl talent when you get those guys back. Teron Armstead, Eric McCoy, David Onyemata. Even someone like Nick Van Nett, the tight end, I don't think we've spent a lot of time talking about him, but he's, suddenly someone that's very important for this team. I mean, they're so thin at tight end. I think getting him back, will make a difference. And maybe that helps get Adam Troutman in some more favorable situations. And maybe you start seeing a little bit more from him. So, things are good for them, man. I mean, they got the 3-2. They lost their Hall of Fame quarterback. They have all these guys injured. And really, outside of a couple, situational decisions against the Giants, it should be a 4-1 team right now. So, all things considered, I think if you said, hey, all these guys are going to be out, in week 5 of the season, they're going to have a 3-2 record, I think a lot of people would have been shocked by that.
Nick, I have a question. So, Jameis, obviously everybody understands there's like the good Jameis and the bad Jameis. You don't want to put him in a situation where he's throwing it down the field too much or forcing stuff. But in the second half last week, he kind of opened it up a little bit, kind of let him eat a little bit, throw the ball downfield. Is that Sean just kind of taking the reins off of him, or is that just kind of the way the game unfolded and the way it played out? Because it felt like in the second half, whenever he was taking more shots and he was throwing the ball down the field more, he just felt like he got in a little bit, better of a rhythm.
Yeah, I think you saw the same rhythm, too, against the Giants. I mean, they let him get into a little bit of a flow, and things started going well for him. As far as the question, I think it's a little bit of both things. They were running a lot of 5-man front, so it kind of took away the running game. And the Saints were doing things coming out in some of their heavy personnel, but like going to empty backfield. So then it was kind of putting them in a situation where, how do you rush? How do you cover? You're in a bad situation with your personnel to match up when, you got guys split out. And you saw that especially early in the game with Alex Arma and Taysom Hill, those first 15 snaps. I think there were 9 snaps with those 2 on the field together, and it just put them in kind of put them in their heavy personnel, and then you split out, and now you don't have guys that can cover. And I think they were going to pick them apart with that. And I think we were going to see some of the quick passing game, intermediate game that we haven't seen just because they were going to be able to dictate that matchup. Then Taysom Hill gets hurt, and it kind of changes things a little bit. And it took them a little while to get back into a rhythm and to adjust on the fly to what was happening. But I do think, some of the stuff down the field, Jameis has been really good at that, and that's where we've seen him excel. I do think when you look at the offense, you can see exactly what's missing, and it is those easy passes underneath the slants. There were 2 of them, one to Juwan Johnson, one to Kenny Stills. Both should have been completed. Neither one were. Marquez Callaway hasn't really shown himself to be someone that can kind of make, physical plays over the middle. He's good at making contested catches down the field for sure. But yes. But some of that stuff over the middle, like on a crossing route, going over the middle, making a catch where you got to fight off a defender, that's just not plays that he's going to make. And I think you drop in Mike Thomas, that's going to make a big difference. Traquan Smith can make those physical plays. So when you look at it, you see what's missing, and you see an answer at least. And we'll see if the answer actually matches up. I think the jury's still very much out on Jameis, the passing offense, all of that. But it looks like they have the answer sitting on the sideline. The other side of the ball, same thing. I mean, biggest issues, pass rush. Okay, well, there's David Onyemata and Marcus Davenport, who should help. So I mean, the reserves are on the way. But as far as Jameis goes, I mean, look, I think we've seen more good than bad. And I also think that we've seen that they'll keep him out of bad decisions, and he's keeping himself out of bad decisions, honestly. I mean, his interceptions, one of them's a guy standing on his ankle. The other one's a Fail Mary, and then the third one was a throw that he probably shouldn't have made against Carolina. But, with the regular quarterback, if someone's standing on Drew Brees, Andrew Speed's cleat is on Drew Brees' ankle, he throws a pick. We're just moving by that play and not talking about it. With Jameis, it's, dissected as a decision, right? All this stuff.
That's
decision was right. And I just think he's graded to a little bit of a higher standard, given who he is when he's coming off of, 30 interceptions. And he should be, but at some point, like, the conversation just gets kind of dumb. And it's just like, look, guy standing on his ankle, he had a guy open, those plays happen. You just you should move by it. But, I don't think they're going to allow him to get in these situations where things just kind of unravel. Like, Peyton will stop it before it gets to that point. And I just think Jameis is doing a good job of mostly making good decisions.
Yeah.
A lot is being made of the relationship between Sean Payton and Jameis during on the sidelines, how they're kind of barking back and forth with each other. And it just seems like Sean Payton's actually coaching him up. And people aren't used to seeing it after the simpatico that Drew Brees and Sean Payton had. So I mean, there's nothing to look into there. That's just Sean Payton trying to coach Jameis Winston. There's no rift internally, huh?
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I mean, you see him barking at people all the time. I mean, not the quarterback necessarily, but after 15 years, there's probably not a lot to bark about, and there's probably not even much that those two even really needed to say to each other, because they know exactly what it's supposed to be. And I think that Sean could probably just be like, hey, Drew, and Drew's, yeah, I know. And you don't have to get to a point where there's a conversation. Someone at the game said that they saw Jameis kind of yelling at Chris Hogan after that play, and maybe that was Sean telling him, like, hey, calm down, like, you got to do this and this, and don't be looking at him, look at yourself. I didn't see that interaction, so, I can't speak to it for sure. But, yeah, I mean, I think seeing Sean coach someone on the sideline going at him a little bit, I think that's extremely normal. And, if you kept eyes on him the whole game, you'd probably see him yelling at a bunch of people at different points in the game. I mean, that's just what he's doing as a coach. I don't take it, as a rift or anything to worry about. If he's yelling at the guy, at least he cares about what he's doing and thinks he can do better, and it's not just kind of a lost cause. So, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. You
mentioned the wide receivers, and you mentioned Chris Hogan in that last take. What happens when Thomas and Traquan come back to this group? Because I think they've probably overperformed for missing those two guys, up to this point, with Callaway and Juwan Jones and those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think they got to get, they'll have to cut a couple of them. Chris Hogan only played 4 snaps in the last game, so he's someone that might be immediately on the chopping block. Will Jordan Humphrey's been inactive for the last few games. He's someone that I would look at as potentially being on that chopping block. So I don't know where the other roster spot would come from, though, because, I mean, I guess you'd take those two out, make somebody else inactive, and you're good to go at that point. So those are the first two I would probably look at. Kenny Stills has done okay. I mean, I think he's limited in the things that he's able to do, but he's definitely playing ahead of Chris Hogan and Will Jordan. So I don't think he'd be the guy out. So those are the two that I would probably think maybe could be on their way out from this team. I mean, there's a possibility that they want to keep developing Will Jordan Humphrey and they're afraid to cut him. I don't think that another team would come and try to sign him. You could probably get him on your practice squad. So I think those would be the two that probably go.
What have you made of this defense's performance? It's been a little up and down through the year, but for the most part, it seems like it's consistently stayed at top of the league as far as just overall production. How do you like them heading into the bye?
Yeah, I thought the Washington game was a little too leaky. They let them go down the field a little too easily, and I think they were fortunate that Heineke threw a couple of interceptions like directly at their players. Like the one to Paulson Adebo was just mind blowing. I don't know what he was trying to throw to there, but it was directly at the cornerback, and that was a bad play. The one to P.J. Williams, I thought was an extremely bad play by the quarterback too. But they clamped down. They made the plays that they needed to make in the red zone and got those turnovers and did what they needed to do. to win that game. The secondary, specifically the safeties, I thought that those guys, when they ended up in man coverage on their tight ends or on a running back, I don't think that they performed very well, but it felt like maybe more of a blip than something that you got to look at is being the norm. And I think that'll take care of itself. So, I feel good about the secondary overall. I think the linebackers have been really, really good. At some point, you get Quan Alexander back, and that group becomes even stronger. It's the pass rush. And the fact that they're succeeding with really zero pass rush at all, it is just such a credit to the back seven. I mean, the fact that you can cover and you have Marshawn Lattimore taking out one of the best receivers in the league, despite the quarterback having 3, 4, 5 seconds on every pass is really, truly unbelievable. And it ups that degree of difficulty to a whole nother level. So, they got to hope that getting Onyemata back in there allows them to get better matchups on the edges. You do see a lot of double teams. I don't think that's an excuse for Cam Jordan not getting sacks or, Peyton Turner not getting more pressures and sacks. You got to be able to beat those double teams. But you look league-wide on those double teams that the ends are seeing, the Saints guys are all seeing more than anybody else. And that's just simply because you don't have that presence at defensive tackle that's drawing attention. So you can, shift guys out to the sides and chip and worry about them a little bit more. So they got to hope that they got the answers coming up in the reserves. Onyemata misses one more game. He can come back. Davenport's eligible to come back whenever. It's just a matter of getting healthy. So, at some point, I think that's going to get better. But, the main question is right now, I mean, it feels like there's a lot riding on Davenport, and he's been extremely inconsistent throughout his career. He's got to prove that he can stay healthy. And then offensively, there's a lot riding on a guy similar, Traquan Smith. He's hurt every year. He's got to prove he can stay healthy. And they get positive answers to both those. I think it helps this team go a little bit further than, it helps them get where they want to be. But it's a lot riding on two guys that have been question marks really their whole careers.
Through the first quarter of the season, Kamara has really been the New Orleans Saints offense. What do you think about him going back at punt returner? I know he said that was the hardest he's been hit in his career. Do they have to keep him back there? Or is he almost too precious that you need to protect him more than have him back there as returner because he's what he's doing for the offense right now?
I thought it was insane they had him back there, honestly. I mean, and then he takes that hit and it's just like, oh my God, what are they doing? You can't expose him to this. Yeah. I mean, that's really how it felt because like if he goes down, your whole team's in such trouble. I just wouldn't expose him to that. I mean, I would maybe, if you have to, pick your spots, and if you're in the fourth quarter and you need, a big return, maybe you take a calculated risk. But just having him out there on every single one, I wouldn't do it. Callaway returned punts in college. He was a decent returner. So that's actually how they found him. Darren Rizzi was doing like a study on returners, and he's somebody that came up, and they started looking at him more, and they kind of saw what he could do in the receiving game, and that's how they became aware of him. So I personally will put Callaway there if Harris isn't ready to play, just because you don't want to see Alvin taking those hits. And man, that one he took, it just felt like almost immediately they're knocking on the door of a worst case scenario. Like don't let it get worse. Just shut that door, go somewhere else. You got to keep this guy safe.
Does the best beat writer on the scene for the Saints take the week off with him, or do you watch football?
I'll be watching football for sure. I'm going to the LSU game on Saturday. I was an idiot and I bought those tickets before the season, at 11 a.m. game with the team that's not doing too well. I'm guessing I overpaid by $100 on each ticket.
I got 10 sweet tickets if you want them, Nick.
He's not lying.
Hey man, if you give them away, I'll take them. But put them on StubHub and good luck. I don't know how that's going to go for you, but maybe you'll find a sucker like me that's willing to pay over face value.
Enjoy the weekend off, man. You deserve it. Thanks for all the information and time as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, man. There's Nick Underhill checking in from New Orleans.football as he is taking the week off. Saints with the bye as they play that Monday night game on October 25th. We've been promoting that game as if it was happening on Monday night. That's what you get for listening to the Jordy Culotta Show. Remember, that conversation is brought to you by RMB Builders. Rhett Bourgeois and the crew brings back all of our sounds. So if you miss any of it, you can catch it there. I was seeing that somebody was asking if we were on Spotify. Our podcasts go to Spotify.
Oh, yeah.
I think somebody maybe a live broadcast. Are they doing live broadcasts on Spotify now?
Oh, no, that's not what we do.
No,
But we
our,
could.
our podcasts go there.
Yeah.
All of our podcasts is brought to you by RMB Builders. Remember, Rhett Bourgeois and his crew. RMB-Builders.com is where you can find them. RMB-Builders.com. Rhett Bourgeois and his crew. Commercially licensed, so they can help you out with anything you need around the office. If you need something totally overhauled and reconstructed, they can do that. If you want a custom design home, they can build you one of those. Anything you need done. Handiwork around the house or office, get in touch with RMB-Builders.com, RMB-Builders.com.
This is why the Saints can't play the Halloween game at night. The week before, it's prime time. Monday night game, Saints at Seahawks. They can't go back-to-back prime times.
Sure
I mean, I
they
would think
can.
they're missing a huge
Sure they can.
scene by not going to New Orleans.
No, they're going to still get the scene.
Yeah, no, but it's
they'll
7
get
o'clock
it.
at night. I mean, everybody's dressed
Brady.
up. Yes. But they went Saints Seahawks, so it's Jameis versus Geno. They might have to.
That was going to be better. That was going to be a better game a week ago, but
Right.
or
But
better.
still not as good as
Yeah.
Saints
It's
Bucks
division.
at
It's
night.
division.
Yeah.
Saints beat them twice. Yeah, I'm with you.
And swing and a miss.
Brady alone.
Yeah.
Saints in New Orleans. All right, Mikey, who we got today? We got day off today
Day
on
off.
baseball?
They got one game on Thursday, and that's going to be the
Dodgers and Giants.
and Giants. So everything else is pretty much set. That'll be the last one, and then
Yep.
and you got the CSs. You got the championship series and 7-game series. 5-game series are great, but 7-game series are awesome.
Dodgers and Giants tied up 2 apiece right now after the last night's Dodgers win in that series. 2 of the best records in baseball. Well, one team has
The
100.
2 best records.
Yeah, one team has
Yeah.
106 wins. The other team has 107 wins.
Yep.
And they're meeting here early on in the playoffs. What a treat for baseball lovers out there. Tomorrow, Game 5 of that series will originate from San Francisco in that West Coast series. All right, Mikey Mahtook will be back with us tomorrow morning. We'll have more to preview on LSU and Kentucky. We'll give you our reaction to Ed Ogeron's stop on the SEC teleconference. What did I say?
LSU, Florida.
LSU, Florida. LSU, Florida.
That's
We can
kind of
go back and
Kentucky.
wait till late
We
again.
don't want to do Kentucky again.
No.
Well, the thing is, Florida's rush offense is even better than the number 1 rush team in the
Sweet.
country.
Great.
Kentucky was 12.
Sweet.
So if
Yeah.
you like to see you go,
Hopefully
if
that
you
would-
get pushed in-
Their quarterback at Florida, both quarterbacks run the ball
Yes.
well.
Hopefully the rush attack doesn't surprise the head coach this week.
I'm here to help, Ed.
Right.
They're number 1 in the country.
SEC teleconference this morning. Ed Ogeron's radio show tonight. We'll be talking about that tomorrow here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Have a great day out there. Stay safe. Before we get out of here, make sure you hit that like and share for us. Comment, tell a friend. We appreciate you being here every morning with us. We'll be back with you at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Shout out to Go Chevrolet for driving and powering us every single day. Check them out online at GEAUXchevrolet.com. Have a good day.
Wonder who's on the board for the call tonight.
Missed a winner last night with UL.
I know. Should have taken it.
That was easy money.
I know, and I knew.
What was the final?
41-13.
Bro, they're good.